So let's say I want to simplify the expression 2 times 3x plus 5. Well, this literally means 2 3x plus 5s. So this is the exact same thing as, so this is 1 3x plus 5. And then to that, I'm going to add another 3x plus 5. This is literally what 2 times 3x plus 5 means. Well, this is the same thing as, if we just look at it right over here, we have now two 3x's. So we could write it as 2 times 3x, plus we have 2 5s. Plus we have 2 5s. So plus 2 times 5. But you might say, hey Sal, isn't this just the distributive property that I know from arithmetic? I've essentially just distributed the 2 times 3x, 2 times 3x, plus 2 times 5, and I would tell you, yes, it is. And the whole reason why I'm doing this is just to show you that it is exactly what you already know. But with that out of the way, let's continue to simplify it. So when you multiply the 2 times the 3x, the 2 times the 3x, you get 6x. You multiply the 2 times the 5, you get 10. So this simplified to 6x plus 10. Now let's try something that's a little bit more involved. Once again, really just things that you already know. So let's say that I had 7 times, let's say 3y minus 5 minus 2 times 10 plus, let's say plus 10 plus 4y. Let's see if we can simplify this. Well, let's work on the left-hand side of the expression, the 7 times 3y minus 5. We just have to distribute the 7. So this is going to be 7 times 3y, which is going to give us 21y. Or if I had 3 y's 7 times, it's going to be 21 y's, either way you want to think about it. And then I have 7 times, we've got to be careful with the sign, this is 7 times negative 5. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. So we've simplified this part of it. Let's simplify the right-hand side. So you might be tempted to say, oh, 2 times 10 and 2 times 4y, and then subtract them. And if you do that right and you distribute the subtraction, it would work out. But I like to think of this as negative 2. And we're going to distribute the negative 2 times 10, and then we're going to distribute the negative, or times 10, and then negative 2 times 4y. So negative 2 times 10, negative 2 times the 10 is negative 20. So it's minus 20. Right over here, and then negative 2 times 4y, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, so it's going to be negative 8y. So let's write a minus 8y right over here. And are we done simplifying? Well, no, there's a little bit more that we can do. We can't add the 21y to the negative 35 or the negative 20 because these are adding different things or subtracting different things. But we do have two things that are multiplying y. We have all in this green color. You have 21y's right over here, and then from that we are subtracting, we can view it as, from that we are subtracting 8y's. So 21 of something, if I have 21 of something and I take 8 of them away, I'm left with 13 of that something. So those are going to simplify to 13y's. And then I have negative 35, this is a new color, and then I have negative 35 minus 20. And so that's just going to simplify to negative 55. Negative 55. So this whole thing simplified using a little bit of the distributive property and combining similar or like terms. We got to 13y minus 55.
All right, so I'm trying something a little new here. Here we go. I'm going to work through some problems with you. So negative 4 plus negative 4p plus negative 6p. Negative 4p plus negative 6p plus negative 6p. So I'm adding together the negative 4p plus the negative 6p. Well, if you look at your coefficients, negative 4 and negative 6, negative 4 plus negative 6 is equal to negative 10. So I have negative 10p. So if we type that in, negative 10p. Great. All right, combine like terms to make an even simpler expression. We'll do 4 minus negative 3z. 4z minus negative 4z minus negative 3z. So subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. So 4z plus positive 3z. 4 plus 3 is equal to 7. So 4z plus 3z is 7z. All right, let's look at some harder examples now. Let's just double check that. 7z. All right. So now if we start distributing stuff, let me move the camera down a little bit. All right. So expand the expression, combine like terms. 2 times the quantity, negative n minus 3, minus 7 times the quantity, 5 plus 2n. So if you do that, you distribute this 2, just like the video said, we're going to multiply 2 times negative n. There's a 1 hidden in here. This is 2 times negative 1n. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, and then we have the n. But then this is positive 2 times negative, so this is negative, because a positive times a negative is a negative. And then 2 times, now I'm going to box in negative 3 to help me remember that this is negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And I could either represent that with a minus sign or plus negative 6, right? Because those are the same thing. Now, we're going to distribute this negative 7. I'm going to circle it to help me remember that negative, times 5 and times 2n. So negative 7 times 5 is 35. And then a negative times a positive is a negative. So I'm going to throw a minus sign there. Negative 7 times 2n, negative 14n. Because 7 times 2 is 14. Negative times a positive is a negative. And now we can combine like terms. So I'm going to use circles for all my n's. Notice that I included the negative in front of the 14n. I'll use boxes for the numbers. Negative 2n minus 14. So I'll do some scratch work off to the side. Negative 2n minus 14n is the same thing as negative 2n plus negative 14n. Because subtracting positive 14 is the same thing as adding negative 14. Negative 2 plus negative 14 is negative 16n. So the two circles to combine give me negative 16n. Negative 6 minus 35 is the same thing as negative 6 plus negative 35, because subtracting the positive, same thing as adding the negative. Negative 6 plus negative 35 is negative 41. So I can either do plus negative 41 or negative 16n minus 41. These two are the same thing. They are equivalent expressions. So I'm going to use the bottom one just because I like minus 41 instead of plus negative 41. So let's see. That's one of the options. 16n, negative 16n minus 41. And we're good to go. Next question. All right. This will be the last one. Negative y minus, I'm going to have to erase this other problem over here. So we're going to do negative y minus 3 times the quantity, negative 3y plus 5. Now you're going to distribute that the negative 3 because the negative y is already done. So if I distribute, I'm going to box in that negative 3 to help me remember. Distribute that. So negative y just stays by itself. Now negative 3 times negative 3y, do some scratch work. Negative 3 times negative 3y. Negative 3 times negative 3, and negative times a negative is positive. 3 times 3 is 9, y stays. So plus 9y, because it is positive 9. Now negative 3 times positive 5, 3 times 5 is 15. But this is negative 3. So a negative times a positive is a negative, and I'll use a negative or minus sign to represent that. I could also do plus negative, because subtracting the positive, same thing as adding the negative. And are those any of our options here? Well, we have to combine like terms. Negative y is the same thing as negative 1y. Negative 1y plus 9. Scratch work again. negative 1 plus 9 is equal to 8. So negative 1y plus 9y is 8y minus 15. I just changed that back to minus because I like the minus sign. So 8y minus 15. And there we go. All right. I lied. This will be our last one. I'm going to have to erase. Let's erase this work up here. And we have 2 times the quantity 3r plus 7 minus the quantity 2 plus r. So really there's a hidden 1 right here, right? Because 3, let's do some right over here, 3 in parentheses is the same thing as 1 times 3. So 2 plus r is the same thing as 1 times 2 plus r. But let's distribute. 2 times 3r, 2 times 3 is 6r, 2 times 7 is 14. Now if you distribute, so we're good there, so 14. Now I'm going to box in that negative 1. If I distribute that, negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2, because a negative times a positive is a negative. Negative 1 times r is negative 1r, but you don't need that 1, so let's get rid of it. And that's negative because negative times a positive is a negative. Now let's combine like terms. I'll do circles for variables, and I'm going to include the negative, and then squares for numbers. I'm going to include the negative for the 2. 6r minus 1r, 5r. 14 minus 2 is 12. So 5r plus 12. Let's see if we get it. And we're all done. All right, let me know if you have any questions. That is your 7-4 flip video.